And welcome to the show. My name is Naeem Sharif. This is Our Islam and Community Issues. Today we have some special guests. Today we have to my left, Mr. Wilson Jordan. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you for
We appreciate all your efforts and everything. And then on my far left, we have Brother Benjamin Shabazz.
Yes.
So today we have a subject, mental awareness through psychodrama. So we're going to try to get to this title by way of a journey here. And there'll be a PowerPoint presentation, but also some basic conversation to make this where you can better understand the language and the different philosophies. So Mr. Wilson Jordan, tell us how you got into this field, or a little bit about yourself.
Okay. When we talk about field, my field is I'm a body worker. Okay. I'm a healer. That's what I do. I heal with my hands. Mm-hmm. Psychodrama, though, falls more under that psychological field. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I had the privilege of experiencing personally about 3 months ago, although I experienced it the first time about 45 years ago. No one called it that. Mm-hmm. They were called it, I think it was group work, sort of. But what I've been puzzled by for a long time in my own life is the discord that we have as a culture when it comes to meaningful communication. Mm-hmm. Why can't we sit down forever and just keep on talking? And part of what I've come to is that you can't do something that you've never been taught how to do. It's not like you learn how to better communicate. Someone has to teach you the various skills, the patience, how not to react to this, how not to react to that. And those things are just on the surface. And the biggest issue that I found that's in our way as a culture is that we're still trying to do new things, but our foundation is still the same.
Okay.
And what I mean by the same foundation is that we still carry the same wounds that we encountered as a child, not to mention whatever we've encountered as a race of people. Okay?
Right.
That's on top of everything else. Mm-hmm. And knowing how to address those wounds and deal with them and be able to stand strong instead of having to feel small or having to adopt a male attitude. Okay? How to really be what you feel inside. For example, how to be the gentle man you want to be with the gentle wife versus struggling at being the man. Psychodrama is different than talk therapy. That's the big thing. See, talk therapy is like between you and me. Okay. But psychodrama is going to bring in, Brother Ben here and maybe Cousin Josie and Mom and Dad, and it's going to bring in all the voices that were pertinent in shutting your voice down, regardless if those voices intended to do that or not. Mm-hmm. And it lets you recreate the general scenario in a way that really shocks your PTSD so that you can make a different choice and see that, well, maybe they were doing something off, but so were you, and that's really the problem. Mm-hmm. So that underlying issue I see is something beneficial for all humans. Mm-hmm. But as a collective, we have not ventured really heavily down this road. Now, at the professional realm, like your book there refers, Mind Matters, in talking from the space of the psychiatrist, that's a different space. I'm talking about a space where everybody grows up, just in the hood. I mean, we grow up going to school. Nobody is shooting nobody. We're just talking about how to deal with just life.
Right.
Okay, the only way we know how to deal with life is generally our parents teach us. Mm-hmm. And the only thing we get from them is what they know. If they don't know, then they don't really teach.
Right.
So we get a lot of patterns in place just really built upon doing the best we can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a bad thing, but that doesn't necessarily make it a good thing.
Okay.
And so how to get strong means, to me, going in and being willing to look at what you don't like to look at about yourself. Because that's the only thing that makes us weak. I mean, you can't make me weak. I mean, you can knock me upside my head, but that's not necessarily going to make me weak.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that will make me weak is how I think about myself.
So true. Yeah.
And psychodrama is a setting where you get to see not only how you have thought about yourself, why you think about yourself in that way, and you have the opportunity then to make a choice to choose to think about yourself differently,
Mm-hmm.
so that certain behaviors you no longer have to do. And that, to me, is the bottom line. We have not figured out as a collective how to get around certain demonstrative behaviors when it comes to communication. Plain and simple. How to communicate and say everything that you need to say, everything that you want to say without fear.
Mm-hmm.
And without me having to attack you or without me having to put you on the defense. How do I just simply learn how to talk to you? And we want to say as a human or as a brother, but
Mm-hmm.
what does that really mean? Nobody teaches us how to do that. My mother told me, you're not supposed to ask that kind of question to grown people. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You be quiet around these people. You don't say nothing.
Mm-hmm.
No one teaches us how to really communicate. Everyone teaches us the rules that we're to obey in our process of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And we get really good at obeying those rules to the point to where we never really say what we want to say because we're scared.
So that goes to we were talking about earlier, the times that you wish you would have said something.
Yeah, because that ends up, it don't matter that we say it 10 years later to somebody who's not pertinent to, you know what I mean? Like me getting on the corner and say, yeah, you know, Ben, I remember when I was with my brother that I didn't speak. No, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is I got to go back and find my brother and speak to him.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way it's going to be rectified. So healing is something that we don't really have a good idea about. I would even argue that to some extent we've substituted religion for healing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, self-healing means you get in and you deal with what hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Because it hurts because we were in what we spoke of earlier, in relations with others.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way we get hurt. I don't get hurt when nobody calls me, nobody comes to my door, I'm not talking to nobody on the phone, I'm not going out visiting anybody. I don't really get hurt in isolation in my house.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I step out of that house and I move into relations with other people, that's when I get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And being hurt is no big deal. The big deal is learning how to deal with it so that if something happens with my interaction here, I don't turn around and take it out on you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that's what I believe we have not learned how to do.
Mm. So that would be, well, like in our community, we seem to take it out in our family or our spouses.
Oh yeah, and
Oh.
then we say, don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you tell nobody. Don't you talk about this outside of that house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you talk about this in school. Don't you tell your teacher. Don't you tell your friends. Don't you? And so now you've got secrets on top of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're a child, if you're 4 or 5 years old, and this is happening inside of your house, which it happens inside a lot of our homes, all right?
Mm-hmm.
What does that do to your thinking? And then your mama or daddy come up and go, boy, get your mind right. Okay? All of a sudden, what is right is really wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we live up doing. And then we come up and we complain how things are bad, but we're just as bad. It's crazy how this thing works.
Mm.
Yeah. And we don't get a lot of help in identifying it, meeting people who have done it. I feel very fortunate in the sense that 3 months ago I went into a session, a group of people. I was the only brother there, but the woman that was facilitating it, they call her the great white-haired lady. She's a white woman, gone native. She's gone native. She left the country. She lives in Ecuador now. Okay, and she left the country. To be honest, she said, "I'm tired of my own people. They're crazy, literally crazy." This is her word. Now, she used to run Bellevue over in New York, the psychiatric ward for 15 years, and then she did about 25, 30 years of psychodrama here. And she got tired and crazy of all of them. And she says, "I'm leaving y'all. I'm going to go down there with the natives and live and do their thing." So she and I do a trade. She has some body issues, so I work on it. So she invited me to the psychodrama workshop. Here's what I walked away with. What it does is it creates an environment for the individual to experience safety from the community.
Safety from the community.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the key.
Interesting.
And I got to thinking about that, and I said, whoa, wait a minute. Wilson, where have you ever felt safe in the community? And I remember times I used to go to the Baptist church even, but it wasn't about safety, okay? It was about as long as I did what I was told, I would be safe. But this was an emotional safety where people recognize that we go through trauma. The trauma is the same. It's the same trauma. I mean, well, my trauma didn't have Ben and didn't have you, but it had so-and-so, and the result was pretty much the same. Me feeling in isolation, abandonment, not loved, okay, not understanding this, and seeing that the piece that is most missing is that we don't really have a community that understands how to love us through trauma. Because in order to have that, somebody would have had to teach them how to do it. Nobody's ever taught us that.
So that would be if, let me just see here. So it almost sounds like to use one of the professional terms, well, I won't even use the professional terms.
Okay.
Anxiety disorder. I'm not crazy. I just need something for my nerves.
No, I think you're right. We're born into anxiety, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
When is the last time you took your anxiety meter off?
Through meditation or prayer. That's the only refuge.
It's on automatic, man.
Right. And then once you step outside that door, it's right back on automatic. Not that we're trying to do harm to ourselves. And yet, the trauma, I can't even go back to the child in Philadelphia who became aware of that meter. But I know that child existed, without a doubt. Because I remember my mom informing that child that this existed. How does a child deal with that? I mean, okay, you don't have the faculties as a child to even deal with such a complicated problem. And yet you're forced to act as if you do. The question becomes, what does that act of forcing you to act like that, what does it really do to you? And what I'm saying is, that's part of how we pass on what I'm calling, and Dr. Francis DeGrasse even called it, intergenerational trauma. It's not just from the slave, it's how the parents have learned to behave that they pass on to the children that's creating just as much trauma. And we don't understand it because we're told, shut your mouth, do as you're told, be good, go to college, get a good job, marry somebody, buy a house, and there you go, you got it. There's not much else supposed to be besides that. And what I'm saying is no, that's why we keep stumbling, because we keep building those things on top of what's not clean in ourselves. Survival is not clean. You know, when you do everything from that survival mentality,
Right.
that's not a clean mentality, not really. And so to clean up what we are takes work. It doesn't, it takes hard work because you have to look at what you don't want to see, you have to feel what you're already hid, and then you're going to have to stand up and say what you've been told never to talk about.
So it not only, from what I understand, what you're saying, it doesn't just affect the individual, but the immediate family and the community.
And that's the problem. The family don't want to tell the truth about the elephant. The community wants to pretend that there's other problems besides this underlying subjectivity dysfunction that all of its members have about their emotional state. See, the community does not want to tell the truth about that. The community does not want to go, yeah, we got emotional problems. They want to blame it on. And I'm not going to say that the blame is not justified. The problem is the blame can't rectify. And only the individual can rectify. And as we rectify what we are, then I believe we can choose who we want to be. But we end up making all these choices about these who's, you know. Am I the basketball player? Am I the singer? Or am I the scientist? Am I the mathematician? And yet we never deal with the what. How gentle am I really? How strong am I? Or what am I really scared of? Okay? What does it take to be able to tell the truth no matter what? If I love you, if I say I love you, and then I don't tell you the truth, do I love you? Okay? But see, learning that the truth is about love, that's a whole nother different conversation too.
Definitely.
Yeah, so.
Definitely. Mr. Benjamin, you have a question there.
Yeah, I was thinking about how do these issues get dealt with? Because you have identified a lot of issues here, and most people that I know, including myself, don't know anything about these issues, but we know we're suffering.
Right. We don't have a format to deal with them, okay? The only format out here now is one-on-one counseling or therapy, and that's talk therapy. Now, that's effective. Here's some crazy statistics for you. There are 86,000 therapists in this country in 2015. Out of that 86,000, 5% were black, 4% were black. Now, where does that 4% reside? Most of them are going to be in big cosmopolitan areas. So here we are in Seattle. Now back to your question, what do we do about it? See, we have a built-in problem. There's not enough of us to help us. So now the question is, can we trust this help from an outside source as well?
There you go.
Okay, in order for me to start down this road, that's pretty much what I had to do. Now, the vision that I see that's coming, or what I'm going to spend some time with, is what do I have to do to become certified as a facilitator to be able to teach or run or conduct a psychodrama workshop. Now, the reason I say psychodrama is the way to go is because it allows multiple people in the room at the same time, anywhere from 12 to 20. All right? Now, each person have got their own pain.
Right.
Now, sometimes it may be a husband and wife couple, or it may be a husband, wife, son, and daughter. Okay? There's no rules about who can be there. Then there's a format. Okay? So everybody there make up the environment. Then there's a stage that's right in the middle. So you say, how do I deal with it? Well, you might walk into the stage and you'll say, you know what? I'm just making this up, okay? You may say, you know, I won't lie. I've been feeling afraid since the day I was born, all right? Now the facilitator is going to ask you some questions about it. How far back do you want to go? And you may say, oh, I don't know, 8, 9. No problem. Now, let's talk about the people in your life at 8, 9 years old. It don't matter who they are, because you're going to remember who they are, and you're going to identify them. As you identify them, you look into the group, and you pick somebody from the group to represent that person, and they come up on the stage. So you may have mom, dad, sister, brother, grandma, maybe grandpa, okay? So all of these may be the people on the stage with you. Now the question is, what did you want to say to these people, and what did they say to you? Because obviously, if you're feeling afraid, somebody wasn't there for you. Okay, I mean, because if they're there for you, they're going to explain, oh yeah, here's that feeling, here's that feeling, here's that feeling. But if nobody's there, you got to make sense of this fear yourself. Now the question is, how did this environment play out to cause you to create the perception or perspective about fear that you have? And that's what the psychodrama is all about. It's to make you come alive inside of what, in many ways, you most deeply fear. And that you created a cover for and a mechanism to survive in society throughout, so society would never see it. But it's always operating. So the direct answer to your question is what I'm looking at is working with Dr. Arishade down in Africatown of the idea of setting up psychodrama workshops that would last a year long. Maybe once or twice a month. We haven't gotten into it. But that will give people a place to come. And the reason I say Dr. Arishade is because she's a clinical psychologist as well. So she has the title to do this. Right. But that will provide a format that's really not there right now. Now, you would think that we would be able to go to the professionals and say, hey, here's what we need. The problem is they don't do that. The black psychiatrist, and I don't say this to offend or anything like that, he writes prescriptions. He does not sit inside of psychodrama workshops. Psychodrama is based on societal interactions. Therapy, talk therapy, is just based on me and you. And that's not where any problem ever developed. All problems develop in social interactions. So where do we go from help? I think we start calling out the therapist and say, hey, here's what we need. We don't need what you come in here offering. Here's what we need. We need another way to go at this problem inside of ourselves, which has nothing to do with anybody else. And in order to do that, you have to have a safe environment. And that stage in the psychodrama workshop is a safe environment because it's intense.
That's what I was going to ask you. I said, you got to have a lot of trust.
Oh, you do,
to go into this.
Oh yeah, because you're not coming in with some kind of game. You're not, and you can go into your attitude if you want. And the facilitator is going to sit right there and go, okay, you're going to do what? Because there's not going to be no violence. Okay? Nobody's going to be cussing nobody out.
I think, where I'm going out with the trust factor is you have to trust the facilitator and the people in that group to a certain extent.
You do.
Yeah.
Everybody in the group is doing the same thing. Okay, for example, if you're one of the alter egos that they pick, right?
Okay.
Okay, and so let's say I'm the father, and my role was always saying, Johnny, don't do this. No, you can't do that, and you can't do that. Now, he calls me up there, and as they say, go, if I go to speak and my voice cracks, that's on me. That's about me and my relationship with my dad. Even though I'm up here on the stage acting this out for him. The people who are sitting in the audience, okay, it's going to bring up stuff for them. However their relationship was with their dad, they're going to find something. And then they're going to sit there. So everybody is literally doing the same thing, maybe at different levels of intensity, because the person in the center of the stage, I was going to say it could be most intense for them, but it really depends on what gets triggered in you out here. See, triggers are going off left and right,
Gotcha.
but you're in an environment where you don't have to react to them. That's the safety factor that everybody experiences simultaneously. That's what builds the trust. Because, I mean, sure, you can trust the facilitator that she or he not going to ask you something that's really going to make you too. But when you see that everybody else is just as naked as you are, and as bruised, okay, you kind of settle down. And then you begin to hear the stories. Because you may come in and go, well, I had a wonderful childhood. I didn't have any problems with my mom, my dad. They clothed me, I went to school, I was happy, I was da-da-da-da. But then as you start hearing the dynamics of how other people explain the relationships with them and their parents, all of a sudden you begin to sit there and go, oh, wait a minute. I think I better look at this a little bit more. And then you begin to see, oh, yeah, how I am is not really how I wanted to be. I was kind of molded this way. And then all of a sudden, that mold begins to shake while you're sitting there, okay?
Gotcha.
You're right, you're just as alive as that person in the center of the stage. That's what's unique about psychodrama. See, you don't get that in the traditional form.
I see we're going to have to do a part 2.
Okay.
This is getting interesting, and then we can also get in your PowerPoint thing.
It's very interesting.
I mean, yeah, this is not talked about, and then like there are many terms and so forth. But yeah, let's do a part 2, because you're getting into the bone marrow of this thing. So yeah, let's just do a part 2. We thank you, sir, for bringing this.
Thank you very much.
And hope our audience got something. We'll do a part 2 of this show, and we're going to go down the road, and we will see where it leads. So we thank everybody for watching, and peace. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.